$66 an ounce. That's where silver is trading right now. And 3 months ago, almost nobody watching this video thought silver would be sitting here in 2026. But here's the number I want you to remember, $70, because the most important thing happening in silver right now may not be the price you see on your screen. It may be what is happening underneath that price. Inside American vaults, inside Chinese ports, inside Beijing's policy decisions, and inside the Federal Reserve. 3 completely different forces are moving at almost the exact same time. A shrinking physical cushion, a country changing how silver moves across its borders, and a central bank trying to decide what happens to interest rates, while inflation continues to pressure American households. Put those 3 things together, and silver starts to look very different. Because this isn't simply a story about a metal going up. It's a story about who is buying the metal, where the metal is going, and how much physical silver is actually available when somebody wants it. And if the forces we're about to examine continue moving in the same direction, the next major move in silver could catch a lot of investors completely unprepared. So don't just watch the price. Watch what is happening behind it, because that's where the real signal is. Let's start with the number everyone is watching. Silver is up more than 10% over the last month and roughly 70% compared with a year ago. To put that into perspective, imagine putting $5,000 into an asset last August and finding yourself with something close to $8,500 today without adding another dollar. That's the kind of move silver has delivered, and that alone would be enough to get investors excited. But there's a problem with looking at silver only through the price chart. The price tells you what happened. It doesn't necessarily tell you why. And the reason this rally matters is because something much more physical is happening underneath it. For years, silver was treated like gold's cheaper, less glamorous cousin. Gold was the monetary metal. Central banks bought it, investors stored it, governments accumulated it. Silver was mostly associated with coins, jewelry, and a handful of industrial applications. That picture has changed. Silver is now sitting directly inside some of the biggest technological trends on Earth. Solar panels, electric vehicles, advanced electronics, high-speed electrical systems, and increasingly, the infrastructure being built for artificial intelligence. Silver is one of the most electrically conductive materials on the planet. That's precisely why manufacturers continue using it where electrical efficiency matters. And this creates something gold doesn't have in quite the same way. Gold can sit inside a vault for decades. Silver can disappear into a factory. Once it's used in certain industrial applications, getting that metal back isn't always economical. And that brings us to the first question. What happens when a metal is being demanded by investors and factories at the same time? That's where China enters the story. For years, China was one of the world's major silver exporters. In 2025, China reportedly shipped roughly 500 tons of silver to the rest of the world. That made China an important source of supply for international buyers. Factories outside China relied on that flow. Refiners relied on it. Industrial users relied on it. The global market had become accustomed to silver moving outward from China. Then something changed. In the first quarter of 2026, China imported approximately 1,626 tons of silver. Think about what that means. A country that had been sending enormous quantities of silver outward was suddenly pulling record amounts inward. And this wasn't happening for just one reason. 2 completely different groups were competing for the same metal. The first group was investors. As gold climbed to record prices, some Chinese savers who considered physical gold too expensive began looking toward silver as a cheaper alternative. But the second group was much more important. Factories. China has been expanding solar manufacturing, electric vehicle production, and the infrastructure surrounding artificial intelligence. All of those industries need silver. So you suddenly had ordinary savers buying silver because they wanted a physical store of value, while manufacturers were buying silver because they literally needed the metal to build things. Different motivations, same market, same metal. And when those 2 types of demand arrive at the same time, something very unusual can happen. The market doesn't just become more expensive, it becomes tighter, and China's March numbers made that impossible to ignore. Chinese silver imports that month reportedly came in 173% above the 10-year seasonal average. That isn't a normal fluctuation, that's an outlier. But here's the question that matters even more. Why was China bringing so much silver in while making it harder for silver to leave? Starting January 1st, China introduced new export controls on silver. Companies shipping silver overseas would now need special government licenses. Only a limited number of firms reportedly qualified. In simple terms, silver leaving China was no longer just a normal transaction. There was now a government-controlled gate. And that matters, because China isn't just another silver consumer. China is deeply involved in the global silver refining and manufacturing chain. So if a major source of refined silver becomes harder to export, the effect doesn't necessarily stay inside China. It can travel through the entire global supply chain, and this is where the story becomes much more interesting. Because at almost the same time China was tightening the exit door, China was pulling more silver through the entrance. That is the kind of contradiction investors need to pay attention to. A country buying more of a commodity while simultaneously making it harder for that commodity to leave is doing something very different from a normal market participant. It's effectively saying, we want more of this metal inside our system, and that brings us to the other side of the world, New York. Inside COMEX-approved vaults, silver is divided into two major categories, eligible and registered. Eligible silver meets the exchange's quality requirements, but it isn't necessarily available for immediate delivery. Registered silver has a warrant attached to it. That means it is the metal available to satisfy physical delivery requests. And this distinction is critical. Because when headlines say there are hundreds of millions of ounces sitting inside COMEX vaults, that number can sound extremely comfortable, but not every ounce is immediately available. The number traders watch closely is the registered inventory, and that number has been falling. Registered silver reportedly dropped from around 201 million ounces in September 2025 to roughly 79 million ounces by April 2026. That's a decline of about 61%. Now imagine a bank. 1,000 customers have accounts there, but the amount of immediately available cash in the vault suddenly falls dramatically. Most days, nothing happens. People don't all withdraw their money at once. But if demand suddenly rises, the size of that physical cushion suddenly becomes very important. That's essentially the question facing the silver market. Not, is there any silver left? There obviously is. The question is, how much immediately deliverable silver is available if physical demand suddenly accelerates? And there's another number that makes this even more interesting. The reported coverage ratio is around 13.4%. That doesn't mean COMEX is about to collapse. It doesn't mean every contract will suddenly demand physical delivery. And it doesn't mean silver is guaranteed to explode. But it does mean the physical cushion is much thinner than many casual observers realize. And when a market becomes thinner, even a relatively small change in physical demand can have a much bigger effect on price. That's why China matters. That's why COMEX matters. And that's why the next part of the story is so important. Because the silver disappearing from the system isn't only being driven by investors. Industry is consuming it. The Silver Institute, working with Metals Focus, is forecasting a silver shortfall of roughly 67 million ounces for 2026. In other words, the world could consume around 67 million more ounces than mines and recycling operations produce this year. And if that happens, it would mark the 6th consecutive year of global silver deficits. 6 years, one after another. And when those deficits are added together, the cumulative shortfall over the previous several years is estimated to exceed 800 million ounces. That's roughly equivalent to an entire year's global mine production. Gone into the system, absorbed by industry. And this is where silver becomes fundamentally different from many other commodities, because you can't simply tell miners, silver is expensive, dig more tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. Roughly 70% of newly mined silver reportedly comes as a byproduct of mining other metals such as copper, lead, and zinc. That means the economics of silver production are often determined by something else. A mining company may decide to expand because copper prices are attractive, or because zinc demand is rising, or because lead production makes sense. Silver comes along with it. So even if silver suddenly doubles in price, that doesn't automatically mean global silver production doubles. The mine isn't necessarily operating according to the silver price. It's operating according to the economics of the primary metal. And that's one of the most important details in this entire story, because it means silver supply can remain tight even while prices rise dramatically. The normal economic response, higher price, more supply, shortage disappears, doesn't always work quickly here. And that creates a dangerous mismatch. Demand can accelerate today, but supply may take years to respond. Now imagine a young couple in their early 30s. They're saving for a house. Their electricity bill is rising. Their phone, computer, and car all depend on increasingly sophisticated technology. They probably don't know anything about silver inventories in New York. They've never heard of registered ounces. They don't track Chinese customs data, but silver is quietly embedded in the economy they're living in. Every solar project, every electrical grid upgrade, every EV production line, every data center, every piece of advanced electronics, all competing, directly or indirectly, for materials that don't magically appear when demand increases. And now China's policy is adding another layer. Silver isn't simply moving according to price anymore. Government policy is influencing where it can move. China is simultaneously consuming more, importing more, and restricting exports. That's a combination worth watching. But there's another force capable of completely changing the direction of silver prices. And this one isn't in Beijing, it's in Washington, the Federal Reserve. Dial to interest rates may sound completely disconnected from silver. They're not. Silver doesn't pay you interest. A treasury bond does. A savings account does. A money market fund does. So when interest rates rise, or investors believe they're going to rise, holding a non-yielding asset can become less attractive. When rates fall, that relationship can reverse. And that's why the Federal Reserve has become one of the biggest wild cards hanging over silver. The new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, was initially expected by many observers to support a more accommodative direction, but the reality has been more complicated. At his first policy meeting in June, the Fed held rates steady, while internal projections showed a significant number of officials expecting higher rates later in 2026. That's a major change in expectations, and markets hate uncertainty. Because investors aren't only asking, what is the Fed doing today? They're asking, what is the Fed going to do 6 months from now? That question can move the dollar. It can move bond yields, it can move real interest rates, and all three can affect precious metals. Now add inflation. The latest inflation data in the script shows consumer prices still rising, while households continue to feel pressure from shelter and other everyday costs. That creates a difficult situation. If the Fed keeps rates high to fight inflation, borrowing stays expensive, mortgages stay difficult, credit cards stay expensive, business financing remains tight. But if the Fed cuts rates because the labor market weakens, investors may begin worrying about whether inflation will remain above target. Either direction creates uncertainty. And uncertainty is exactly where precious metals tend to attract attention. Picture a retiree living on a fixed income. They're watching food prices. They're watching their savings. They're watching bond yields. They're trying to protect purchasing power. Now picture a young couple trying to buy their first home. For them, higher rates mean a larger mortgage payment. And picture a factory worker whose company depends on silver. If silver prices rise sharply, the company may face higher input costs. But if demand for its products is rising at the same time, that same worker could benefit from stronger production. 3 people, 3 completely different lives, 1 commodity. And that is why silver's next move matters beyond commodity traders. But before we get carried away, there's a reality check we need to make, because this is where a lot of silver videos lose credibility. A supply deficit does not automatically mean silver goes straight up. A shrinking inventory does not automatically mean COMEX runs out of metal. And China's record imports do not automatically mean China is secretly controlling the global silver market. Markets don't work that cleanly. Silver is one of the most volatile major commodities in the world. Earlier this year, it reached a nominal high near $121 an ounce before falling dramatically toward the mid-60s. That single move should tell you something. Silver can make enormous moves in both directions. Anyone looking at today's price and assuming tomorrow must be higher is ignoring the most important characteristic of this market, volatility. And there's another possibility investors need to consider. Some analysts believe China's enormous March import figure may have been partly driven by manufacturers bringing purchases forward ahead of regulatory changes. If so, some of that demand may have been borrowed from future months. That would mean the headline number was real, but its long-term impact could be smaller than it first appeared. That's why the next few months matter so much. We need to see whether China's demand stays elevated after the initial shock. If it does, the story becomes much more significant. If it doesn't, the market may have simply experienced a temporary surge. And that brings us to one of the most interesting signals of all. The gold-silver ratio. Right now, it takes roughly 67 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. That number matters because the relationship between gold and silver has historically moved through enormous cycles. Back in 2024, the ratio briefly moved above 80 to 1. Since then, it has compressed. That means silver has been catching up with gold. And historically, extreme movements in the ratio have sometimes been followed by enormous silver rallies. There have been periods where silver gained 40%, 300%, even 400%. But there's a crucial warning here. Historical patterns are not promises. Markets don't read textbooks. A ratio can stay stretched far longer than investors expect. So the gold-silver ratio isn't telling us silver will definitely explode. It's telling us something unusual is happening in the relationship between these two metals. And that is precisely the kind of signal serious investors watch. Now put everything together. China is buying enormous amounts of silver. China is making exports harder. Industrial demand continues expanding. Global silver supply has reportedly remained in deficit for 6 consecutive years. COMEX registered inventories have fallen dramatically from their previous levels. The physical cushion is thinner. The Federal Reserve remains uncertain, and silver is sitting near a level that technical traders are watching closely. That doesn't guarantee a breakout, but it creates something much more interesting, a setup. If silver pushes through the next major resistance zone and physical demand remains strong, momentum could accelerate quickly. But if buyers fail, if the Fed stays hawkish, If the dollar strengthens, or if Chinese demand cools, silver could fall just as quickly. That's the part investors need to understand. The same forces that can create an explosive upside move can create an equally violent downside move. And here's the bigger picture. China isn't just buying silver, it's buying gold. Its central bank has now reportedly purchased gold for 21 consecutive months, adding roughly 20 tons in July. At the same time, Chinese silver imports have surged. Two metals, different uses, but one broader direction. Physical assets. Gold protects reserves, silver feeds industry, and it can also function as an investment asset. And both are becoming increasingly important in a world where governments, manufacturers, and investors are all questioning how much they want to depend on paper promises. That doesn't mean the dollar is about to collapse. It doesn't mean China is replacing the United States as the center of global finance tomorrow. And it certainly doesn't mean silver is guaranteed to reach some enormous price target. It means something much simpler. The physical side of the market deserves more attention than it has been getting. Because while millions of investors are staring at a price chart, factories are buying metal. Governments are changing trade rules, central banks are accumulating gold, and vault inventories are changing underneath the surface. That's where the signal is. Think about the older couple doing their weekly shopping. They aren't watching COMEX, they aren't reading Chinese customs reports, they aren't studying the gold-silver ratio, but they are watching the price of groceries, they are watching their savings, they are watching interest rates, and they're trying to figure out whether the money they have worked decades to accumulate will still buy the same things 5 or 10 years from now. Now think about the young worker trying to buy a house. Think about the factory worker whose job depends on industrial demand. Think about the investor deciding whether silver belongs in a portfolio. All of them are connected to the same global system. They just experience it from different angles. And that's why silver matters. Not because it's guaranteed to go higher, but because silver is sitting at the intersection of money, technology, geopolitics, and physical scarcity. And those four forces rarely line up quietly. So let's return to the number we started with, $66. That's where silver is sitting now. But the real question isn't whether $66 is expensive or cheap. The real question is, what happens if the physical demand underneath that price keeps increasing? What happens if China continues absorbing silver? What happens if global deficits continue? What happens if COMEX inventories remain historically tight? What happens if industrial demand from solar, EVs, and AI keeps accelerating? And what happens if the Federal Reserve suddenly changes direction? We don't know. Nobody does. And anyone promising you a guaranteed silver price is selling you something. But we do know this. The silver market has changed. China has changed its relationship with the metal. Industrial demand has changed. The physical supply picture has changed. And the Federal Reserve has introduced another layer of uncertainty. So the next major move in silver may not come from one headline. It may come from all of these forces colliding at the same time. That's why $70 matters. Not because it's a magic number, but because breaking it could tell us that the market is entering a completely different phase. And failing to break it could tell us the opposite. Either way, the next move could be much bigger than the number on today's screen suggests. The signal has already been sent. Now the question is, who's paying attention? If you learned something new today, make sure to subscribe to Money Insights, and like this video, more powerful financial insights are coming next.